Where you find that they look like the same.
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust TV. Now, let's take a look at the dailies on Daybreak, and we'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper, beginning with the lead story here. It says, why local rice price continues to rise. Millers and farmers are giving their own account. It has the riders that says, blame corruption, inadequate paddy supply, poor irrigation. Seek subsidy from federal government. That's the farmers now. Tinubu must wade in, says citizens. And the last rider to that, it says, we supported 4.57 million farmers. That's according to the Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, you have also other stories there. Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chair, advocates regional counter-terrorism on page 6. 15 bodies recovered, 78 houses burnt in Plateau, Magban. You also have Sokoto butcher killed by Amotekun in Oyo, and that's on page 5. These are the main stories on Daily Trust this morning.
Now let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. It has a lead story that says, ministerial appointment. National Assembly awaits nominees as Tinubu sends list to DSS, EFCC, others. And the first rider, head of service reshuffles secretaries ahead of minister's arrival. Others Tuesday resumption. And then the second rider, permanent secretary writes Bajabiamila, Akume security chiefs, others on redeployment. And beneath that, we have presidency. I worked against Atiku, says Fayoshe. Adamu NWC members on collision course over APC account audit. NDLEA arrest Delta Church workers, seizes drugs in states. And beneath the pictorial, we have federal government to shut online banks, pestering debtors. 18 Benin Republic-bound party-goers, driver, motorboy die in Lagos crash. Immigration officer shoots protester dead in Ogun community. And above the masthead, we have cost of living. More Nigerians may join Japa train as hardship worsens. And we also have Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chair, rallies members against schools. These are the major stories on the Punch newspaper for today.
All right. Now, on the Vanguard newspaper, the lead story talks about governments of ex-presidents must account for $5 billion Abacha loot. Federal High Court orders administrations of ex-presidents Obasanjo, Yar'Adua, Jonathan, Buhari to account for repatriated funds. Saraf urges Tinubu to obey court order. You also have above the masthead curfew as 12 die in fresh attacks on Plateau communities. PIA, administrative challenges, inadequate funding, others hinder implementation. You also have Benue, death toll in Ukum local government area attack hits 30. Governor Alaya, APC condemn bloodbath. You also have banks in earnings windfall on the high interest rate regime. These are the main stories on the cover page of the Vanguard newspaper today.
Over now to the Guardian newspaper. It has a lead story that says, ministerial list, 5 ex-governors, technocrats lead Tinubu's 40-man cabinet. And we have pictorials showing some of the ex-governors that are said to be on the list, which is yet to be unveiled. Beneath that, we have Tinubu emerges ECOWAS chairman, commits to democracy in sub-region. ECPA hired to destabilize Southeast, frustrate Kanu's release to enrich self, says Ohanizi. Beneath that, we have terrorists killed 231 persons in Mango Council. We also have Dangote congratulates the Guardian publisher on 40th anniversary. These are the major stories on the Guardian for today.
All right. Now, on the Blueprint newspaper, the lead story says Tinubu now ECOWAS chair, seeks regional security, private sector-led economic growth, wants body to rise against coup d'etat. And that's on page 6. You also have below the pictorial, Ene emerges first runner-up as Blueprint tops at Report Her Awards. You have Hajj 2023 death toll of Nigerians in Saudi Arabia rises to 20. These are the main stories on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Now, to get some perspectives to some of the stories that we have this morning on our newspapers, we have Salami Salman, a veteran journalist and public affairs commentator, with us in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us on
Good morning.
Daybreak this morning.
Good morning, Aiva. How are you?
Well, very well,
Sarah.
thank you.
Good morning. It's good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. All right, well, a number of stories. Let's begin with the President Bola Tinubu's emergence as ECOWAS chair. It's a story that is, virtually on all our papers. How important is this at this time in our history?
Well, let us just thank God that the so-called old bull is rising again. Nigeria ordinarily should be the leader and the giant in the real sense of the word, not giant with a clay legs of Africa. And we thank God that Nigeria today is taking a rightful place in the Committee of Nations. Interesting. This is the president that has just come to office. This is the president that is just joining his colleagues at the ECOWAS. Yet, because of the recognition of Nigeria as a leading country in Africa, that they now say, fine, even though you are just joining us, please assume the chairmanship of ECOWAS. Kudos to Nigerians.
All right, well, let's also move on to other stories just right away. The lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper is something that, a lot of Nigerians are really concerned about, the issue of local rice, the price of local rice. It has continued to rise despite all the government interventions. We have the central bank here saying we supported 4.57 million farmers. I believe that's through the Anchor Borrowers program of the previous administration, all in a bid to, make sure that Nigerians can afford the very basic, which is food, rice in this instance. We had the rice pyramid at a point in Nigeria, in Abuja, that was unveiled. These are all things that, people thought, okay, well, with some of these things, then we should be able to afford and buy rice at a very cheap price. But from what it appears, it looks like even smuggled rice that are imported into the country is much more cheaper than our own local rice.
Well, we all know that food security is very important. And of the three basic needs of life, food, shelter, and clothing, food ranks first, so to speak. The issue of local rice has been like the proverbial Abiku in Wole Soyinka's book that has refused to go away. You discover that during the Buhari's regime, there was this Anchor Borrower scheme by the Central Bank of Nigeria. It was an interventionist scheme to support farmers with a view to producing rice in such a manner that we will be self-sufficient in rice production. But like everything in Nigeria, you discover that the intention may be good. It is the implementation stage that we always have problem. What are the issues?
Okay, the thing is this. You know, they brought the Uncle Boras fund, gave to people, and they were able to produce rice. But according to this report, the reasons they are giving is insufficient paddy rice, insecurity, high cost of inputs, absence of mechanization. All of these are a bit beyond just the Uncle Boras scheme. So what could we have done?
Well, I want to believe that there is the need for us to have the end in mind from the beginning. Why shouldn't be enough paddy rice? Of course, the insecurity is a factor. No doubt about that, because if farmers feel insecure, there is no way they will go to the farm. And I think that these are some of the issues that we have been discussing here, that the issue of security of life and property should come first. And I even want to believe that the government is there to do what? Any government that is what being called government should secure the lives of the people and their property. And let us believe that with the coming of President Tinubu and the charge he gave to the service chiefs, that good times may be here.
Very recently, we had farmers complain. Daily Trust did a story on that to the effect that now that borders are open, it's going to make local farmers to suffer, in the sense that they are going to, lose their businesses, lose money, because apparently the local rice cannot compete. Beg your pardon, cannot compete in terms of pricing with this smuggled rice into the country. So what should we be doing? Should we just block the, should we just stop the importation or the smuggle? How can we effectively stop the smuggling of the rice? And if we do so, can we guarantee that our local production can actually meet up with the demands that we have?
Well, the acting Controller General of Customs came up to say that the border has not been opened for the importation of rice. And two, we have a problem in the production of local rice. What is being produced clearly is not sufficient for local consumption. What do we do? And the simple law of demand and supply stipulates that when demand is more than supply, price will go up. That is why now you can get a bag or a 50 kg of local rice goes for about 40,000, 35 to 40,000, even local rice. So honestly, it's neither here nor there. And of course, I would rather suggest that if rice is not affordable, what are the alternatives? What are the alternatives?
Well, I guess that's what we should be discussing, and perhaps our governments and leaders, will have to think about in the coming days. Talking about the government, the issue of ministerial list is still also something that is on the front burner. The Guardian newspaper, for instance, leads with the headline that says 5 ex-governors, technocrats lead Tinubu's 42-man cabinet. So it speaks to the speculations that some Nigerians have been, talking about having former governors, on this ministerial list, even though the presidency has said that they haven't formally released any ministerial list. Nigerians, the media, social media, everybody is speculating, and certain names, comes up each time you have this discussion.
Some names have been constant.
Exactly. Even given the fact that they've been going to the presidency every now and then, you see them addressing the media, and all that. Even some members from the opposition, as a matter of fact, no need to, call the names like the former governor of River State and the likes. What do you make of this? What should the President Bola Tinubu be doing in regards to people who should form members of his cabinet?
Well, thank God that the spokesperson to Mr. President, Mr. Adele Alake, has consistently been telling us that the names making the rounds or the list is fake. Beyond that, the question I want to ask is public office public trust? Is it for delivering services to the people? Because quite many of the so-called ministers-to-be are not really the kind of people that Nigeria need now. We need people who are genuinely interested in serving. People who believe in integrity.
Is it technocrats, politicians? What kind of people?
Well, both technocrats, politicians, critical core stakeholders who are competent.
Okay, so yesterday we heard about Ayodele Fayeshe's visit to the presidency, and was it his appearance in one of the channels where he responded to some questions, and he said that he is not interested in any cabinet position. He even went ahead to advise the president in this regard, saying that he thinks that the president should give only 40% to perhaps some of his associates, his allies, politicians. In this case, maybe the former governors will fall into that category. In fact, he specifically mentioned the issue of age, where he said people from 60 and above should not, constitute a majority of the cabinet members, but rather he should look at women and youth in making his appointments and all of that. And for him as a person, Ayodele Fayeshe said that he may not be interested, but I mean, he is thinking about the generations behind, the younger ones, and he's very willing if the president decides that he should bring someone, for that kind of position and all that. What do you make of, some of these comments coming out of the presidency?
I think we should be more interested in competence rather than the age, rather than the gender, and rather than compensating.
Yes, but if you talk about competence, does it mean that there are no competent people in this other demography, women and youth? Is that what you're trying to say? What exactly do you mean?
What I'm saying is this. You are now appointed a minister not because you are a woman. The most important thing that you have been nominated to be a minister because you are competent, because you have the character, and because you know exactly what is in front of you. Competence, to me, more than any other thing, is more important and should be the first consideration in appointing anybody to public office. And of course, such people should see public office as public trust that must not be betrayed. It should not be seen as a means to personal aggrandizement.
But there are some people that have said that the politicians who may have supported the president, who now want to be ministers, also maybe have the competence to be ministers.
Well, the criteria should not be, I'm a politician, I've supported the president, I should be compensated. Don't let us look at it as a means or a way.
What if I'm a politician, I've supported the president, and I want to bring my competence to bear?
Well, if your competence is not in doubt, it is open. The most important thing is this: is the person the most competent? Not necessarily because you are a politician, not necessarily because you supported the president, not necessarily because, don't see it as a payback thing. That's what I'm trying to emphasize.
But I mean, while
compensation.
While supporting the president, some of these politicians had this at the back of their minds. They were not just doing it merely because they are so in love with the president and they just want him to be the president. Some of them actually had this in mind. It was a negotiation, if you like, or I mean,
today.
This is the narrative that we should change. Don't let us see politics as a thriving business that whenever I am lucky to have supported somebody who eventually wins election, then my bread is buttered. It is wrong notion. It is not the way to go.
You know one issue that has read its head since after the election, the issue of balance. We saw that play out very well in the National Assembly. So would the president be able to rise above all of that in selecting these ministers? Because there are certain people that say, okay, they are bringing ethnic considerations, religious considerations, and all of these things.
I just pray that we'll get it right this time around. Because since 1999, we have been doing this. But character, balancing, gender, whatever, where have all this taken us? Let us, for Christ's sake, do the right thing. And what is the right thing?
All right.
Get the best amongst us.
Okay. Now, talking about the right thing, the Federal High Court has ordered former administrations of former President Obasanjo, the administration of the late Musa Yar'Adua, Goodluck Jonathan, and that of the former President Muhammadu Buhari to account for $5 billion Abacha loot as to how it was spent and expended and all that. What do you make of this story and this order that is coming? Well, I don't know. It remains to be seen anyways.
Well, my take on this is that may President Bola Tinubu have the courage to do what the court ordered. That the administrations of President Obasanjo, President late Yar'Adua, President Jonathan, and President Buhari, the administration should provide Nigerians the information as to what they did with the whooping $5 billion Abacha loot. I hate to take it as a joke because these our boys, the Nance boys, always say that any money looted should be relooted, and that is a looter continua. I hope that is not the case. A looter should not continue.
All right. Well, it looks like the EFCC and the ICPC has a lot to do in this regard, and other financial, anti-corruption agencies to be able to look into that and bring forward the books. The Office of the Accountant General as well, and the Finance Minister, I believe, the Auditor General, the Accountant General, they all have a role, in this regard. And I can imagine that it's probably going to be something that will take, a while to be able to do all that. But we'll leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning and for sharing your perspectives with us.
Ayuba, thank you very much for being with you. And Stella, thank you very much.
All right. Our guest has been Mr. Salman. He is public affairs analyst, and also he's the Director, Justice Pen Alliance, yes. CEO and Director, Justice Pen Alliance, joining us to give perspectives to some of the stories on our newspapers. We'll take not a break, but we are going this time.
Well, it's a break till tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we are used to doing our reviews, before this, this time around. So, but we did a little tweaking to that effect. So thank you so much for staying and for watching the show. We look forward to having you join us tomorrow for another time on the program. In case you've missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also on our YouTube live stream. I am Ayuba. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for welcoming us into your homes this morning. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Iyaji, and do have a very pleasant day.